Can you all hear me? Yes. So welcome to church this morning. Welcome to everyone who's watching online. All those of you who are even on holiday maybe, and you're watching on holiday, I know that Pastor Paul and his family have been down at the coast, and so they've been tuning in on our online website each week, so we welcome them as well. But a special welcome to all you people that are here this morning in person, as well as those who are visiting for the first time. It's such an honor to have you. Listen, I realize that I have emphasized over and over again how much I love Christmas. And so I feel the pressure this morning to do a Christmas message that is full of everything Christmassy, right? So I feel that pressure, but on the other hand, I do love Christmas, I do. So I feel like this was a really easy sermon to preach. So I could have done this like unprepared, I think. So let's see what happens. So we are doing the series, I do have a PowerPoint. We're doing the series, The Emotions of Christmas, and last week, Tabiso started us off with the series. And the reason that we decided to do The Emotions of Christmas is because Christmas is an intensely emotional time, isn't it? Everything just seems so much more intensified around Christmas, especially emotions, and especially people who may be going through some stuff. If you think about it, maybe someone who struggles with depression or depressive thoughts or something like that. Then you get to Christmas and you're told all the time to be merry. You're told all the time to be joyful. Last night I heard the one guy saying how it was during a soccer game I was watching, and they showed the coach who wasn't looking happy, and the commentator said, that guy needs a little bit more Christmas cheer. It's like you can't feel anything negative around this time. And so what that does to someone who might be going through depression or something like that is it intensifies their depression because they're not feeling what they're being told all the time to feel. And so it gets intensified around this Christmas period. Or if you think about someone who struggles maybe with anxiety, and all they want to do is hide away in their room, and now there's just so many social gatherings that they're expected to be a part of. And all you want to do is just hide away, but you have to go to social gathering after social gathering, and you have to show your face. And so your anxiety builds up a little bit more and more. Or if you think of someone who struggles with stress. And I know all of you can relate with the idea of stress around Christmas. If you've ever organized an extended family Christmas lunch, there is always stress involved, isn't there? I don't think anyone has had an extended, massive family lunch and walked away thinking, man, that was so great, we should do that again next week. There's just so much stress around it. I remember growing up and I was made to sweep the grass. Like, who does that? Why do you sweep? No, I'm just joking, Dad. You didn't make me do that. But it was some stuff that you had to do that was just like more intensified pressure, right? And so if you struggle with stress, it's intensified at this time. Or even people who are struggling with addiction and recovery, and they're told, be a little bit more loose around this Christmas period. Have some more to drink. Have some more of this. Have some more. Let's do a little bit more of that. This period can be tough. And we looked at this Christmas period and we thought to ourselves, is this what Christmas is supposed to be? Is this the Christmas story? Is it supposed to be this intensified time of emotional ups and downs? And so we looked at the Christmas story and we said, what does the Christmas story teach us about emotions? What kind of emotions does the Christmas story show? And so like I said last week, I had pictures for each one of those. Oh, that would have been nice. See, that was depression, then anxiety, then stress, and then addiction. I don't know why I chose that one for addiction. So last week we started off with tears, because that's the world before Jesus. So the Christmas story starts before Jesus, and then you get Jesus. And so Tabiso started us off with that great sermon on tears and how God sees us in our time without Him, and He sees what we need, and He comes and gives us exactly what we need, even if we don't know what it is. And so He did that sermon on tears. And each one of us have a time before Jesus arrives into our world, and God sees you in that time. He sees your hurting and brokenness. And so this morning, when we look at the story, the emotion that we saw next is surprise. I wanted to do some big surprise this morning. That would have been fun, kind of analogy. One of the ideas that I had was, to have a mask and then take my mask off, and then there's another mask underneath with like a horrible face on it, and that would have been a great surprise, but I couldn't find one, so you're stuck with this face. And I want to tell a story this morning about the next part where the announcement of the birth of Jesus happened. And that was a great surprise, right? It was a great surprise to Zechariah and to Mary, because it was this introduction of the unexpected. We call the gospel the good news, but you can't have good news unless there was bad news, right? You've got to have bad news. It's got to be a bad situation to have good news. Otherwise, it's just news. We just call it the news. But it's the good news because it was this is what was going on, and then this unexpected thing happened, and we're going to look a little bit at how that happened to both Zechariah and Mary, and what that means for us. But that's the best part about Christmas, isn't it? Surprise. This is why I love Christmas so much, because of the surprise element, the unexpected element of it. The best Christmases are the Christmases that are unexpected. The ones that go all according to plan are actually forgettable. The ones that are unexpected. Even gifts, if you think of the best gifts you ever receive, are the gifts you never thought you were going to receive, right? And so I actually have a video that I want to show. Are you ready with the video, Dean? Oh, okay, cool. I have a video that I want to show of some kids and their reaction to their Christmas surprises. So let's just watch that.
What is it?
Oh no, this is hopeless. Oh, it's not a bite. Oh man! Don't tell me it's an origami book.
It is.
I can't do origami. It is. It is. It is. Don't you love it? I love it! I'm freaking out! Stop me! No way!
Is that what you wanted?
No! A fox or me! I got a Kindle! I got a box! I got a Kindle! I got a box!
What's in there? Open it up, thing out. What's in it? Yeah, pajamas! Yeah!
I love these. I don't want a bicycle. I want lipstick. I got pickles for Christmas.
You got pickles for Christmas!
I want Santa. Ooh, look at all the presents.
What do you say?
Thank you, Santa. Mwah. Thank you, Santa Claus. Thank you.
So that's what Christmas is all about, isn't it? It's all about this unexpected, expectation-filled time that's hurtling at us a million miles an hour, and you don't know if it's going to end up being a wonderful success or an absolute disaster. So you just strap yourself in and you hold on with both hands, and once it's all over, you try to pick up the pieces to decide if that was a good year or not. And so we come into this time trying to see how to survive it, and it's always a surprise. It's a surprise every year, and I think that's why I just love it. I just love this. Don't know what's coming at us, and we just get ready for it. So, in the story, in the Christmas story, we get to the part where it was before Jesus, and now the supernatural breaks through, and this angel appears to Zechariah and says to Zechariah, "You're going to have a baby," and his reaction is one of complete denial. He can't believe that he's going to have a baby. And so the angel says, because you don't believe me, you're going to now be mute. You're not going to be able to talk. And so he goes home to his wife Elizabeth, and he can't talk, so I don't know how he tells her, but she falls pregnant. And a few months later, the angel then goes to Mary and says the same thing. You're going to have a baby. And her reaction is one of just completely filled with questions. How is this going to happen? Why me? What's going on here? And so she's just riddled with questions in her surprise. And then, yeah, she writes it all down. And it actually, the Bible even says that she was troubled when the angel appeared to her. She was so surprised with this situation. But my question has always been, why the surprise? Why were they surprised? We read in Isaiah 7 verse 14, which most of your Bibles will have in the book of Luke, where they tell the story of Zechariah and Mary. And we read there that it says, the Lord himself will give you a sign, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and will call him Emmanuel, God with us. So why were they surprised at this whole situation? Because actually the Jews weren't expecting what they got. They were expecting something completely different. This theologian, Reza Aslan, he said, the Jews of Jesus' time had conflicting views about the role and function of the Messiah. Some believed the Messiah would be a restorative figure who would return the Jews to their previous position of power and influence. Others viewed the Messiah in more apocalyptic terms as someone who would annihilate the present world and build a new, more just world upon its ruins. There were those who thought the Messiah would be a king, and those who thought he'd be a high priest who would correct the corruption and false worship occurring in the temple. They were expecting someone like them. They were expecting one of them to kind of rise up and then be like anointed. Hey, he's the Messiah, guess what? And that's not what they got, is it? What they got was God's plan. And God's plan was, I'm going to insert myself into the story. Completely unexpected. Their expectation was one thing, and God did something completely different. He said, I am going to put myself into the story. The way Hillsong United say it is they say, the painter becomes the paint. And this is just the most incredible part of the whole Christmas story. This is the part that makes me cry every year, that God would make himself one of us. That God would make himself a baby, that he would come, the God eternal would become this finite being. The God absolutely all-powerful would become this fragile little baby, which is mind-blowing if you think about the fact that God created everything. He holds it all together, and then he becomes a part of it. He created mothers with that mothering nature. He created mothers to be nurturing, right? And if you've ever seen, I hope you've seen a mother, probably all of you have mothers, but mothers have this innate nature to take the best care of their child, to do everything possible at any expense to themselves to take care of their babies, right? There's stories of mothers being supernaturally strong to save their babies. And God puts this nature in a mother and then puts himself at the mercy of that nature he created. He puts himself at the mercy of this teenage girl who has the nature that he created to take care of him in his fragile state. It's so incredibly risky, incredibly unexpected, an incredible surprise. It makes me think of the movie Aladdin, where the genie says, what does he say in the scene? He says, phenomenal cosmic powers, itty bitty live in space. And God does something like this, where he's so incredibly omnipotent and omniscient and omnipresent, and then becomes this baby. It is such a difficult theology that many theologians over the centuries have actually rejected the idea that God ever was a baby. They try to get around the fact that Jesus came as a completely natural baby, because it is so unexpected. But that's the manner of grace, isn't it? The manner of grace is that God is going to come and love us with everything we need in the way we don't expect. Ephesians 3 verse 20 and 21 says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us, to him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus throughout all generations, forever and ever. Amen. You see, God goes above and beyond our imaginations. He goes above and beyond our expectations. He doesn't do things according to what we think. He goes according to his plan. He sees, like Tabitha said, what we need. And he gives it to us so lavishly. Jesus came for us at a time when we didn't even know we needed him. He came for us in a way that we didn't know we needed. And it reminds me of another story in the Bible, a story that we know very, very well, but even so, a story that I would like for us to go through again. And it's found in Luke 15. So if you have your Bibles, you can open up to Luke 15. I'm going to be following it in the New Living Translation. It's the story of the prodigal son. Like I say, it's a story we all know very, very well, but at the same time, a story that I think we need to hear again. So a man had 2 sons. The younger son told his father, "Father, I want my share of your estate now, before you die." So the father agreed to divide his wealth between his 2 sons. And this younger son packed all his belongings and moved to a distant land, and there spent all his money. Around the time his money ran out, a great famine swept over the land, and he began to starve. He persuaded a local farmer to hire him, and the man sent him into his fields to feed the pigs. This young man became so hungry that even the pods he was feeding the pigs looked good to him. But no one gave him anything. When he finally came to his senses, he said to himself, "At home, even the hired servants have food enough to spare, yet here I am dying of hunger. I will go home and I will say to my father, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and am no longer worthy of being called your son. Please take me on as a hired servant.' And so he went home. And when he was still a while off, his father saw him. Filled with love and compassion, he came running to him, embraced him, and kissed him. The younger son said, 'Father, I have sinned against both heaven and you, and am no longer worthy of being called your son.' But his father said to the hired servants, 'Quick, go and get me the best robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Go and kill the fatted calf. We must celebrate, for my son was dead, yet now he has returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found.' And so the party began. Meanwhile, in the field, the older son was working. When he returned home, he heard music and dancing in the house, and he asked one of the servants what was going on. 'Your brother is back,' he was told, 'and so your father has killed the fattened calf. We are celebrating because of his safe return.' The older brother was angry and refused to go in, and so the father came out and begged him. But he replied, 'All these years I've slaved for you, and never once have you given me even one young goat for a feast with my friends. Yet when this son of yours comes back after having squandered all your money on prostitutes, you celebrate by killing the fattened calf?' His father said to him, 'Look, dear son, you have always stayed with me, and everything I have is yours. We had to celebrate this happy day. For your brother was dead and has come back to life. He was lost and now he is found.' There is so much surprise in the story of the prodigal son. There is so much that is unexpected in the story. One of the elements that we talk about the most often is how the father came running out to his son. He saw him from a while off and he came running, and that's not the way it was done in the Jewish culture at all. How it was normally done was the father was required to be shown respect first, and then he would acknowledge the presence of his son. So it was expected that he would sit there with his colleagues or whoever else was in the room. The son would have to come in and show respect to the dad, and then the dad would acknowledge him and bring him into the conversation. However, when this dad sees his son from a mile off, he knows what's going on. And he's so filled with love. He doesn't care about the offenses. He doesn't care about anything that this guy has done. All he cares about is that his son has returned to him. I think that there is a lot that we can relate with during this time, during this story, because of this intensely emotional Christmas period. Because of this period of Christmas where we have so many expectations that fuel our emotions. We have so many expectations that make our emotions go up and down. And sometimes we can be like this younger son, where we place some expectations on God. And we expect God to behave a certain way in our lives. And we expect him to do certain things in our lives. And when he doesn't, we decide the best way to get the life that we want is to start to distance ourselves from God. And so we pull away from him. And we think that we can then get what we want by doing things our way instead of submitting to him. And so I want to ask you, how has this year been for you? I mean, I'm sure I know how most of us would answer. But if you were to look at 2020 and you were to look back to January and how close you were to God in January, where do you stand now? A lot of us in the beginning of the year, we say, okay, this year, I'm going to draw close to Jesus. This year, I'm going to draw close to him. How do you stand today? How have you been doing on that resolution? Have you started to pull back? Or are you as close to God now as you set out the year to be? I know that I am nowhere near even half as close to him as I wanted to be when the year started. And it's my fault. It's my actions or lack of them or my lack of understanding of God's love that has gotten me to pull away from him and try to do things according to my own understanding. But the great surprise that always hits me at Christmas is that God is not sitting here like our teachers in December. Sorry, teachers, we do love you. But God is not sitting with a marking sheet to see how we did this year. And he's going to give us a scorecard. The great surprise is that God looks at us all the time filled with love and compassion, just like this Father. And he doesn't care what's happened in this year. All he cares is for us to turn to him and give up everything and just fall in his arms. I love that picture of that father wrapping his arms around his son. The other surprise from, I never went through, look, there it is. The other surprise from the story for me is the brother. See, the brother has been with the father this whole time. The older son, he's been with his father the whole time and he's been working, he's been diligent, he's been doing what he's been required to do. But there's something telling about verse 28 in most translations. I haven't put it up. But in most translations, you'll see in Luke 11, verse 28, it says, it calls this older son, it calls him the older brother. And that's the first time in the story one of the boys are called a name in relation to the other brother instead of a name in relation to the father. And although it's not in the original text, I do think that these translators were onto something. That this man or this boy was starting to relate himself in terms of other people as opposed to in terms of God. Romans 5 verse 8 says, God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. You see, Christmas is saying, you weren't expecting grace to be this way. You were thinking maybe like the younger son, if you want to come back to God, you got to work. You got to repair your relationship with the Father by doing a certain amount of things. Maybe you've thought subconsciously, okay, I need to read my Bible this many days in a row before God and I are tight again. Or maybe I've got to go to church this many weeks in a row. Or maybe I've got to do A, B, and C before God and me are good friends again. Grace has to work in a way that I have to do something, right? I've got to be a part of the reconciliation story with God. Surely I must do something. But the Bible says that while we were still sinners, before we asked for it, before we earned it, and not because of anything we did, Christ died for us. A great surprise. And he has been doing all the things that God wants. He's been in church all these years. He's been paying his tithe. He's been going to life group. He's been reading his Bible and praying every day. And then as soon as his brother comes home and gets to be a part of the fattened calf feast, you know what he does? He takes his eyes off the father and starts looking at the brother and starts seeing everything he doesn't have. And come on, who hasn't done that at Christmas? Who hasn't unwrapped their Christmas gift and gotten all excited and then walked outside and seen what the other kids have? And how am I supposed to get excited about my Hot Wheels loop when that guy's got an electric scooter? That's not a story from my childhood that I need to deal with, I promise. But who hasn't compared with other people and seen what we don't have? And what does the father do? The father comes outside to him and says, you're forgetting that you still have me. You're thinking that you don't have all these things that you see that your brother's having, but you're forgetting that you haven't lost me. And this is the biggest surprise of Christmas. The surprise we forget. The father is coming and saying to him what God said to Moses all those years ago. He says, God said not to Moses, to Abraham, sorry. He said, do not be afraid, Abraham. I am your shield. I am your exceedingly great reward. God says to Moses. Abraham, I'll get there. God says to Abraham, I am your exceedingly great reward. And so the father says to the son, take your eyes off of what you don't have and look at me. I am your exceedingly great reward. My love for you is way more fulfilling than anything you can see around you. My love for you has way more purpose and way more pleasure than anything around you. And you've taken your eyes off of that. And if you're anything like me this morning, sitting here, you could also say that your emotions will fluctuate when you take your eyes off of God. And it will be a lot more difficult to go through an intensely emotional time when we're looking at other people and what they have and what we don't. The surprise of Christmas is that Jesus is our gift. The world was without him. And then the gift of Jesus was given on Christmas morning. Not because we asked for it, and not because we deserved it, and not because we did anything to earn it. But because that's what gifts are all about. This gift of Jesus was given, and it is greater than any gift you're hoping to get at this time. So there are expectations around Christmas. There are. You have expectations for time that you're going to spend with your family, or time you're going to spend with friends and loved ones, or how you're going to spend your holiday. But it's only God who won't let you down if it's only God that you want. So I'm going to invite the worship team back up on stage, and I want to point out one more thing in the story. If you notice, the story doesn't tell you how the older son responded. So the father comes out and says to him, I am still here. You still have all of me. Yes, you don't have what your brother has, but you still have all of me. So come and celebrate the fact that love has been reconciled with your brother. Come and celebrate that we can share this great gift of love. And then the story ends and we don't see, does the brother respond and say, that's all I wanted. That's all I want is my dad. Or does the brother say to his dad, that's not enough? That's not enough, and turns his back on his dad again. We don't know. But if you're in the story, you get an opportunity to respond. If that's you this morning, you get an opportunity to respond to the story of unexpected surprise. You get an opportunity to respond to the gift of Jesus. If you find yourself at the end of 2020 not as close to Jesus as you would like to be, there is time to respond. And the time is now. Because God is filled with love and compassion. He's not waiting to point out the things that you did wrong. Again, when the older brother pointed out what the younger brother had spent all his money on, the dad didn't even flinch because it meant nothing. All that was important to him was his son was back in his arms. Father is waiting with his arms open. And it's not what we expect at this time. It is what we get. So why don't we all stand up and close our eyes? God pursues you relentlessly. He pursues you wherever you try go. And He's waiting for you to turn and come home. Not to come and work for Him, but to be a part of the hired servants, or nor to be a part of the hired servants, but to be a part of the family. To be a son in the house, to be a daughter in the house, to be a part of an eternal home. God is throwing a Christmas party with all the extended family. And all that's going to be on the table is love. So maybe this morning, as the worship team plays some music in the background, for a minute or so, we can have our own response.